I was challenged the other day by a good friend, and he basically said that your social media has become your homepage. And if you're a youth pastor, parents are going there to see who these guys are, who you are. And so, yeah, because I was challenged by it, I want to use this platform to share a little bit more about what I do as a youth pastor, some of the messages that we're talking about on Wednesday nights. I know we got a lot of students that follow on my Instagram. I'll probably throw this up on Instagram and on YouTube. Just, if it affects even one person, then it's worth it. But just want to talk about some of the things we've been talking about at United, and let's talk about it.
Pastor Cody! It's Pastor Cody. Pastor Cody.
Let's talk about dating. Dating in 2025 seems wild to me. It's like trying to order food at a restaurant, but instead of menu, you just got a bunch of people just swiping left on your personality or maybe even your face. And a couple weeks ago, I and all of us youth pastors at Grace Family, we preached a message on this topic. And I feel like it was too good just not throw up here on YouTube and throw up here on Instagram. And so if you're navigating dating or relationships or just trying to figure out what it even means to date God's way, stick around, because if we're being honest, a lot of what we believe about dating is shaped by everything except what God actually designed it to be. And so I'm gonna do a quick pulse check real quick. Think about where do most people get their dating advice from? Is it their parents? Is it the Bible? Unfortunately, it's not. It's actually usually TikTok or the movies that they watch, or it's that one friend. I use this joke on Wednesday night. It's that one friend that, they've always are in toxic relationships, but suddenly they become Dr. Phil when you actually need some advice. And that's what culture's biggest piece of advice is. It's this thought of following your heart. That's what's woven in between TikTok and in the movies. Every single Disney movie you ever watched, that's the theme, is follow your heart. And that sounds nice, right? But here's the problem with that. Our hearts, they're deceitful, and our hearts, they're reckless, right? One day you're in love, and the next day you're just like getting the ick. And that's why God's design for dating is so different. It's not about finding the right person. It's actually about becoming the right person. The person that God created you to actually be. Because the best relationships don't start when you meet the right person. They actually start when you let God shape you into becoming the right person. And we spoke on this verse, Proverbs 3, verse 5 through 6. And it says this, it says to trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to him. In all your ways, in all of them, every single one of them. And he will make your path straight. See, culture says dating is about the moment. It's about this instant attraction. It's about this instant connection. It's about this instant gratification. But what if God's love story for you isn't about what feels good right now, but what's actually good for you in the future? Trust me, because I've been there. I dated a lot, more than I care to admit. And at one point I thought I found the one. We planned everything. We planned our matching outfits for church. We planned the future wedding. We did all of it. But here's the problem. I made her my foundation instead of letting God be my foundation. And when the relationship ended, it just wrecked me because everything I had put my worth into was gone. And it wasn't until later that I realized that dating my way, not God's way. And it wasn't until later that I realized that I was dating my way and not God's way. And so this key thought keeps coming to mind about dating. It's dating the world's way is about chasing your feelings, but dating God's way is about building something that lasts. Because God's design for dating, it's purposeful. The world treats dating like it's a game, like it's trial and error, swiping left and swiping left and swiping left and swiping right and then swiping up. I don't even know what that means, right? But you're figuring it out as you go. But God's design is not that. It's purposeful. It's not about just having fun or seeing what happens. What if dating was never meant to be about experimentation, but instead it was about preparation? Think about this, like if dating was supposed to lead to marriage, why would you start a relationship that isn't moving in that direction? And I say that because in Genesis 1, verse 27, God tells us this. He tells us that God created male and female in his image and gave them a purpose to come together in marriage, not just for companionship or romance, but for something bigger, marriage. It's the second most important relationship that you'll ever have, right behind your relationship with God. So why are we so casual about dating? And if you're dating just because you're bored or you're lonely or you like the feeling of getting a good morning text in the morning, then I'm just here to tell you that you're playing yourself, because dating is meant to be intentional. If it's not leading you closer to Christ, then it's leading you further away. And the reality is that most people mistake attraction for love, but attraction fades. What really lasts? What really lasts is the kind of love that's described in 1 Corinthians chapter 13 that we read about, we talk about all the time in the church. And if you've never been to a church, then I'm here to encourage you to check out 1 Corinthians chapter 13, because this is real love. It says that love is patient, love is kind, love is not jealous, love is not proud, it's not self-seeking, it keeps no records of wrong, love never fails. That's real love. Not a feeling, but an action. And there's problems with dating our own way. If we ignore God's design for dating, then we end up carrying a ton of unnecessary baggage that none of us want to be carrying. And some of us have been caught up in this cycle of dating and breaking up and heartbreak, and then it just repeats. Dating, breaking up, heartbreak, repeat. It's because when we prioritize our own desires over God's design, it leads to disappointment, it leads to brokenness. God's design for dating is different. It's lighter. When we trust Him with this area of our lives, He takes the weight. He removes the shame, the rejection, the insecurity, the fear. And matter of fact, I got a great illustration about this. And instead of trying to explain it, I'm just going to throw the clip right here.
We got to guard our heart, because the heart shapes our choices, it shapes our behaviors, it shapes the path that we end up walking down. Listen, if we can start setting our desires on things that are of love from God, if we can start to desire the wisdom, if we can start to desire a community that comes around us to build us up, to push us to pursue Jesus, then we're going to start to live a life that has peace, that has freedom, that has joy that we just can't explain. But the problem is, so many of our hearts don't desire that. We find ourselves desiring these different things, these relationships that are unhealthy, they're toxic. And what happens is we step into a relationship because we like it and we want to. And then we're dating, and then they break up with us, and now we've got heartbreak, and we're sad, and then you know what? The cycle just continues because we're following our own desires. And so what happens is we start to carry this weight in our life. When you step into a relationship that wasn't in God's design, we have this shame. Matter of fact, I got these bags here. It's kind of like this, right? Say I step into, let me move this for y'all. I see you taking that's fine, don't worry about that bottle. We step into our desire, right? And we say, you know what, I'm gonna pursue that relationship. I know it's not in God's design, and then you do, and you get there, and it's toxic. You got a little weight from the guilt. And with that guilt comes a little bit of shame. And all of a sudden, before you know it, your life starts feeling just a little bit heavier. But the cycle doesn't stop, right? Because now you're in there, and before you know it, there's another relationship, some more guilt. And then somewhere down the line, you're like, you know what, let me go ask that girl out or that guy out. And they tell you no. And now you got the weight of rejection on your life. And with that rejection comes loneliness, and a little bit more loneliness. And before you know it, your life, I'm gonna get that one out of here. Your life is feeling heavy. And you're like, God, I feel like I can't move, I feel like I'm stuck. And with this rejection and this loneliness, what happens? You've been here. God, why? Why did you make me look the way I look? Why did you make me the way I am? I'm weird, I'm different, I don't fit in. Nobody likes me, nobody wants to date me. And so now you got all this anger. And it just continues to build up. And you just, God, and before you know it, you're standing here holding this weight from all of these different emotions because you followed your own desire. And you're standing here and you're looking at all of this and you're like, but I want God's design. God, I know your design is for me to walk over there, but God, I can't, because it's heavy. And you just find yourself in this moment where you're just like, I want it so bad, but I got all this weight. Can I tell you, students, tonight, the weight is heavy, but you don't have to carry it. In a minute, you could throw it down. God says, if you just give your life to me, I am such a good God that pain, that anger, he'll take it. He says, you don't have to carry the pain of the rejection anymore. You don't have to carry the pain of the shame. You don't have to carry the pain of the guilt anymore, the loneliness. He's like, I've got you and I'm enough. And he says, you know what? You don't have to carry any of that baggage anymore. I got it all. When this happens, you start to feel a little bit freer, right? And you're like, God, I want to walk in your desire, but I don't know, man. I don't know about you guys, but I've been feeling a little bit heavy up here. What happens so often is I see it week in and week out. Students come to the altar and they're like, God, I want to give you everything. And you're saying that, and you give them some of the things. But some of us in this room, there's something that feels like it's just part of who you are, and you feel like you can't give it to God. Maybe nobody sees it. Nobody even knows it's there. It's, you know what, it's... And you've just been wearing a weighted vest the whole time, and you just hope that nobody sees it because you got a Mahomes jersey on over it. But for real, this is what so many of us are living our lives like. We're hoping that God doesn't even see it, but God is sitting here. I'm telling you, student, whatever that thing is, whether it's with someone or it was done alone, whatever that thing that's holding you down, that weight that's on your life, God, I don't even know if I can get this thing off. God doesn't just want some of the baggage. This is gonna be tough. I got it all tangled up. Can't break that. Listen. God doesn't just want some of the weight. He doesn't just want some of the anger, of the loneliness. And here's the thing is, you might think nobody knows, but God sees that vest you're wearing. He knows what it is. Be for you guys to pray. But he wants that vest. And when we do, this vest that you've been carrying, look, you might have dropped a lot of that weight. But my challenge for you is this vest you've been carrying, lay it at the altar. Because he doesn't just want to take some of the weight. He wants all of it.
See, this is why God tells us to guard our hearts. Proverbs 4:23 tells us, it says to guard your heart above all else, for it determines the course of your life. So what does dating God's way actually look like in 2025? It looks like focusing on your friendship first. Focus on spending time with a person before you ever start to date them one-on-one. Get to know who they are. It looks like knowing that your salvation is not their salvation. And then here's a key tip is to look at their character, not just their face. Who are they? What do they say? What do they do? What decisions do they make? Who are they hanging out with? Look at their character. If you're tired of the wait, the games, the uncertainty, it's time to go do it differently. God's design is better. His design is greater than our own desire.